Welcome to a new episode and in fact a new season of the collaboration between Dukascoin TV and Arcade's Digital Vision. Today we're going to talk about what is probably the hottest investment theme of at least this year, maybe the next couple of years in fact, and this is ESG, environment, social and governance. And we're going to talk about what this has to do with crypto. So when we talk about ESG, environment, social, and governance, we all understand that this is a huge field, and really at this point in the investment world, a lot of people are talking about it. Everyone has to have an ESG strategy. Now, what we're going to talk about today is where does ESG intersect with crypto and what's the structural environment here. I'm also going to give you a couple of real-life examples that are actually concerned with ESG in this space and in crypto, and we'll see how much power there is actually in this whole field now. So let me get something out of the way first, okay? There are basically two things that we need to discuss when we talk about ESG and crypto. First, is crypto bad for the environment? And I think that's one of the big topics in this field. And I kind of want to get this out of the way first because I would love to talk about ESG and investing afterwards. So there is a difference between two types of consensus mechanisms in the blockchain. That sounds a little bit technical, but bear with me. Number one, there is a proof of work consensus mechanism. And number two, there's a proof of stake consensus mechanism. Now, the difference between those two, and this goes at the heart of the ESG question for crypto itself, the difference between proof of stake and proof of work in a blockchain is that for the proof of work, there's a competition between the validators, the decentralized validators in the blockchain, a competition to solve a cryptographic puzzle. That puzzle, or this cryptographic algorithmic puzzle that needs to be solved, that takes a lot of computing power, and therefore a lot of electricity is used. And that actually gives you this negative connotation because it is a substantial amount of energy that's being used there. And so this consensus mechanism is quite heavy on energy consumption. On the other hand, we have the proof of stake mechanism. Proof of stake works differently. The validators in the network are staking, and that means they put basically cryptocurrency on the table and say, I stake this amount, and if I do a good job validating, then I can gain some rewards. If I do a bad job, I can get punished, so to speak, so my stake can be reduced. So this is another way of doing this, and since we're not competing to solve a cryptographic puzzle, the energy consumption here is very low. So between those two versions of blockchain validation, we can choose one or the other. There are advantages and disadvantages, but for the energy consumption, proof of stake is really the way to go. And we're talking about 98% reduction in energy consumption. So yes, there is a way to run blockchains, to run and create cryptocurrencies with a much reduced carbon footprint. So with that out of the way, I'd like to go to the next topic, or to our main topic today, which is crypto and ESG. Let me give you a little bit of background for the structural aspects of what is driving ESG and crypto currently. So when you look at ESG in general as an investment theme, and it really is more than an investment theme actually, right? I mean, it is something that is driving our economy in many ways. But in terms of figures, last year, 2021, we have seen $120 billion go into ESG-themed funds, right? So the investment has almost doubled in this area, and which means for us, it means just that there is a lot of kinetic energy, if you will, in terms of the investment behind this. Let me add another number here, which is 130 trillion. And what's that number now? At the COP26 UN summit in Glasgow, a number of financial firms that have a combined $130 billion under management, also for investing, They have pledged to put that money into investments that have climate considerations at heart. So that also gives us an idea of how much money, energy, so to speak, is put into this direction of ESG. And in this case, this is just the E, that's just the environment and specifically the climate aspect of this. So that means structurally there's a lot of money going into this direction, and that is really encouraging from many perspectives. We're talking about what that means for crypto now. In the context of ESG and crypto, there's one concept that we also have to just mention here briefly. And there are several concepts, but several ways of calling it. One of them is stakeholder capitalism. You can also call it Finance 4.0. Some people say the Green New Deal. Others say Build Back Better. The European Union has programs in place and climate goals. There are the Sustainable Development Goals. So there's basically a whole area of goals and initiatives that are going in this direction. And this is what adds to this movement. Whether people agree on the policies or not is kind of not important in this context, because we are actually talking about how we can benefit from this and how crypto can actually accelerate this. We're bringing together basically the hottest topic in investing today with the hottest topic in technology today, and this is ESG and crypto. And here is the connection that we're making. The question that many people ask, so how can crypto actually support those goals? And it turns out that for all the SDG goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, you can actually support those with crypto. What are those goals? Well, it is carbon reduction, it is financial inclusion, it is a more equitable world. All of these can actually be addressed, or partially at least addressed, with the help of distributed ledger technology, i.e. crypto. So what I'm going to do for the rest of this segment is basically I'm going to show you some actual projects that are utilizing crypto technology, DLT, in order to address some of those concerns and some of those ESG goals. And the first one I want to talk about is a company called Impact Scope. And what they do is they use coins, they use cryptocurrencies to actually help offset carbon dioxide. So they can connect CO2 offset projects with users, specifically also in the crypto space. So you can actually utilize crypto blockchain technology in order to track and actually offset carbon directly with this project, with this company. So it's a way to integrate a carbon offset into projects. It's a way to integrate carbon offsets into business processes, and basically moving from a very complex accounting methodology to a token-driven accounting methodology. The next project I want to show you, and it's also on the screen, is called Klima Dao. Is actually very interesting because it combines the possibility of offsetting and rewarding CO2 with a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organization. So they combine the aspect of governance with the aspect of carbon offsetting. What they do, these are voluntary carbon offsets, and we have to be very clear that voluntary carbon offsets are somewhat different from the regulatory ones. That's not the same thing. But in fact, they promote and they enable CO2 offsetting and measuring. So carbon offsets are one of the topics that are very, very easily and very well addressable with crypto and DLT technology. One other project I want to tell you about is like a very interesting, because it's not yet tokenized, but it will be tokenized, and this is called Sparrow City. What we have here, and you can see that on the screen, is basically a technology that can scan for environmental problems in a city by essentially mounting a sensor on top of cars, of taxis, etc., and it collects data. So in this way, we can actually make data-driven decisions. Why is it interesting to tokenize this or to use tokens here? Well, because we can track the data, we can integrate it into crypto projects, and we actually can start creating platforms that can reward specific behavior, can reward the collection of data, and so on. So here's one project that is going from one side to the other, so to speak, where crypto absolutely makes sense and helps to actually drive this project and make it more adaptable to many different environments. One interesting side note here, many cities are now starting to set up their own city coins. So there is crypto that's being used in the cities to address specific concerns, environmental, social, and governance. And of course, here is one of those big areas where crypto adoption will really accelerate the type of projects that we're just talking about. In fact, the projects can integrate into city coins, into those kinds of ecosystems and environments, in fact. One of the issues that I want to point out specifically in terms of what crypto can do or what blockchain technology can actually do for ESG is combating greenwashing or social washing. What is greenwashing? Greenwashing is having a fuzzy kind of project that claims to do certain ESG actions like offsetting carbon or in recycling or social issues, but really doesn't do that or just does it kind of marginally, and it's not very transparent. So there's actually currently legislation being introduced in many countries against the type of greenwashing or social washing that is happening, in fact. So of course this needs to be improved a lot, and here is one of the main applications for blockchain technology, because with blockchain technology we can have a very transparent immutable record of those actions that actually are happening or have happened or will happen, so that we can actually show what's going on inside of those projects, and we can certify that these projects actually do what they claim to do. So that's a huge topic for where blockchain technology can actually help attain ESG goals and support the whole process. As you do a little bit of research in the space, crypto, ESG, you'll find a lot of projects that are addressing different types of issues, including also social and governance. So I want to also point that out. So it's not just about carbon offsets. It's not just about using blockchain to track environmentally relevant products. But it really also can apply very well to social projects, and one of them here is social good, for example, actually creating a cryptocurrency that directly addresses issues. And what they do is they partner then with like larger companies, and in this way generate those types of goal setting and support the kind of goal setting that we all are looking for. The next project I want to point out in this sort of little highlight collection of projects is the Deep Square project. It's one that's actually based in Switzerland as well, and it is interesting from the point of view that it actually addresses a very technological question, namely the cooling of high-performance computing. We all know that high-performance computing is really behind a lot of the technology that runs our modern world. And makes a lot of the things possible that we're taking for granted. But one of the things here is, or one of the problems is that it generates a lot of heat, right? And what Deep Square does actually, they are utilizing immersion cooling to actually recover some of that heat and use it for positive purposes like heating buildings, like powering other appliances, and really recovering up to 30% of that energy that just otherwise would just go out in the air as to be cooled, essentially. Now, what they're doing is they give access to these high-performance computers through a token, right? So in this way, what they're doing essentially, they can divert computing power to their more sustainable computers or sustainably cooled computers, and in this way provide a decentralized computing network that is much more sustainable. And blockchain tokens are actually helping to power this and to create a whole economy that's around this and democratize access to sustainable high-performance computing. So a very interesting project as well, and an example of how blockchain can also really go into those very technological projects that are really hardware projects in a way. So very interesting application here. The last example I want to show you today is in the area of governance, and that's a very interesting piece as well. Why is it so important? Well, governance is really one of the areas where we would like to make sure that we have more transparency, more accountability, more stakeholder involvement, and doing that is not easy. However, with blockchain technology, there is a lot of processes and a lot of transparency that can actually be brought to the governance sector. And just to kind of show you how one can actually build those kind of solutions by oneself as an organization, as an individual, as an association, I'm going to show you this Aragon project, which you can see on the screen. And in fact, you can just go there and click, and you can actually generate your own DAO. DAO, I mentioned before, is a decentralized autonomous organization. And in this project, it is possible to generate your own DAO for your organization. And in this way, utilize blockchain technology directly, like tomorrow, for your governance needs. And obviously, making it this accessible is a big step forward for more transparent governance options. What I want to show you here as the last example is actually coming from an international organization, UNICEF, which is the United Nations Children Organization. And they just announced last year an innovation fund that actually supports startups that develop open source blockchain-based solutions toward greater financial inclusion. And financial inclusion is, I guess, next to environmental concerns, decarbonization, financial inclusion is one of those really, really big social issues that are specifically important to bring large parts of the world's population actually into a financial system. So there's a huge push towards that, which also can benefit, in this case here, clearly the world's children. So blockchain technology can help drive financial inclusion. And as you can see, there are many projects also ongoing in this area, and in this case here, supported by UNICEF as well. So the last thing I want to point out is that from my perspective, working in the blockchain industry for a couple of years now, I see a huge drive happening towards ESG projects in that area. So we will see many, many more such projects, including our own company. We are also developing a platform that will help to integrate many, many ESG projects in one platform. So we're really seeing this firsthand, and this is clearly something to look out for. And this will literally help change the world.